The West Desert Caves was once a site of tourist attraction, but now a site of a relentless 28-hour failed rescue operation that gripped the world in horror. It was a battle against time and the claustrophobic embrace of our very own Earth. What began as a casual outing would spiral into the inevitable devastating tragedy that will render a family and a community scarred for decades to come. This is an odyssey of pain, suffering, and the human spirit confronted by the overwhelming powers of our very own Earth. And all of this unfolds in absolute darkness. 150 feet below the Earth's surface, in a Nutty Putty cave, a deceptive terrain that is known for its twists and turns, claustrophobia-inducing maze-like structures with openings so tight that air and hope seems to run thin. John Edward Jones somehow maneuvers his way through and unknowingly finds himself traversing a passageway in this cave that no one had ever explored. It was as if he had reached into the very essence of our Earth and touched her soul. This part of the cave was not mapped out because people thought it impossible for someone to fit through such tight and narrow space. He inched further into what seems to be an opening at the end of the tunnel, an opening wide enough for him to maneuver, twist and turn, stand upright, and meander himself back to familiar territory. John continues to press forward, inch by inch, compelled by the silent siren calls of hope, curiosity, and the relentless desire to gasp for air. John inched towards what seems to be a way out, but it was a mirage, an illusion, a choke point. The journey towards this opening will mark the beginning of a fatal misadventure, a path that will entangle him within the unyielding embrace of the earth and darkness. But stop. Hold on. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Let us backtrack. Thanksgiving holiday, John returns home to spend time with his wife and extended family. He decides to go caving like he used to when he was younger. This particular cave he had never been to before, and accompanied with him was his brother, and left at home was John's wife and unborn child, patiently waiting on his return. The Nutty Putty cave was a sight to behold. It consisted of boulders, standing tall as though they were guarding the mysteries of the earth. This was a daunting maze of twists and turns, tight squeezes, and a claustrophobic choke point that challenges the bravest amongst us. Here the air is thick, rendering it heavy to breathe. Whilst you gasp for air like a threatening to leave, you are submerged in absolute darkness. Drowning in the echoes of the abyss, you are swallowed by the very earth itself, and you don't even know it. The walls closes in and around you. Each breath that you take, each movement that you make must be calculated with precision. This cave is unforgiving, a geological puzzle. When you venture deeper, the caves embrace titans, and you will encounter sections more challenging and unforgiving, like the birth canal or the aorta crawl. These claustrophobic veins of the earth demand the courage and finesse of skillful cavers. Here in the belly of the earth, even seasoned explorers find themselves wrestling with the relentless desire to be free. John and Josh had heard about the birth canal, a claustrophobic choke point that leads to a segment so tight that it seems impossible to pass. But beyond this point was a small room where you can stand upright and turn around. The birth canal was not just a test of physical dexterity, but of mental fortitude. After consulting the map, John and Josh found the birth canal. John went first, twisting and turning, meandering his way into another section of the cave called the corkscrew. This section of the cave was called the corkscrew because of its treacherous design and unforgiving architecture. Here the cave's demands are clear. You are to contort, coil, twist, and confirm in ways that defied human nature. It's a place where flexibility is not just an advantage but a necessity. As they navigated this treacherous path, each turn was a dance with danger, each twist a negotiation with the implacable earth. The corkscrew was a physical riddle, requiring a symphony of movements that stretched the limits of human agility and grace under pressure. It was a nauseous descent into the heart of the cave, a space just 12 inches in diameter. That's all the corkscrew had to offer, a space so tight that air becomes a luxury that you cannot afford. John is in this very position and there's no way out but forward. He sees what seems to be an opening and he uses all of his might to press forward. According to his map, if he is able to pass this area, there will be a small room but large enough for him to stand upright and strategize his way back. John negotiates. Given his breath as a sacrificial offering of passage, he exhales deeply, allowing the cave to consume what little breath he had left so that his core can be tight enough for him to inch further into the heart of the cave. Straight ahead, John encounters a dead end, but right below, another opening that dimmed beyond the horizon of his headlamp. This was strange because the map never said anything about this. There should be a small room right here so that he can stand upright and turn back. But there was a hole. Going back was not an option because that's impossible. But maybe if he goes down this hole, he'll find a room so that he can stand upright and turn back. If it were you, what would you do? Okay, that's enough, I get it. Unbeknownst to John, he was in an unmapped area that no one had ever been. He was shining a light towards the dark corners of our Earth's soul, bearing witness to her secrets, secrets that she would never dare to whisper into the light. He was certain that this was the birth canal. After all, many cavers had described that it will be a tight and grueling process, but everything will be just fine once you make it to the other side. John proceeded into the opening below. It was a 90-degree angle drop, and he was certain that there will be an opening ahead. But the cave had other plans. He slipped down and uncontrollably gained momentum. He was upside down with one hand pinned against his body and the other supporting his entire 200-pound weight against the relentless drag of gravity. He slid into an even tighter crevice and it was certain. The walls whispered around him. There's no way out. This position was both precarious and disorienting. The walls closed in and around him with suffocating intimacy. You don't get it. This was a space not much bigger than a magazine. The strain was immense. John struggles to hold his weight whilst doing a one-hand handstand. It was as if the weight of the entire world was pressing against the palms of his hand. In this inverted position, every second was a tug of war, a battle against the pull of the earth. It was an exhausting and grueling battle. In this grueling nightmare, each second stretched an eternity. Shadowing John's movement was Josh, John's brother, but instead of going head first, Josh went feet first, and with a voice sharp enough to cut through darkness, John yells to his brother not to follow him. He told his brother not to go any further so that they both wouldn't get stuck in this crevice. After futile attempts to reach his brother, it soon became clear that they would need professional help in order to get John out. Being devout Mormons, both brothers prayed together and agreed that Josh should go get help and John should try as much as possible to stay calm and relaxed. For several hours, John remained suspended in an inverted world. All of us have made decisions that would have resulted in disaster, even if we're unaware of it. Hindsight is such a wonderful thing when you are an expert who pretend. Hours went by, and gravity continued to cuddle him deeper within the cave's embrace. Hours went by. John was a devout Mormon. He spent his time worshiping and praying. Hours went by. His cries for help swallowed by the cave, unheard and unanswered. Hours went by. The silence must have felt like a beast, feasting upon his dwindling hope with every passing minute. Hours went by. Understand that John was in the heart of the cave. From here to the surface would take nothing less than an hour. Hours went by. The darkness must have been suffocating, an oppressive force that feasted greedily upon his dwindling hope, a predator so complete that it threatened to consume not just the light but the very essence of his spirit. Hours went by. Hi, John. My name is Susie. How are you doing? The first rescuer, Susie Matola, arrived. Susie's arrival must have felt like the first crack of dawn, a force piercing its way through the unbreakable stone into the depths to challenge the dominion of darkness. John was relieved. He responded, "Hi, Susie. Thanks for coming, but I really want to get out. This sucks. I can't believe I am upside down. My legs are killing me." You see, Susie was 5 feet 3 inches in stature, so maneuvering the corkscrew was not much of a challenge. She also had ropes tied around her ankle in case she got stuck. A rope was fastened around John's ankles as well, like a lifeline tethered to the world beyond his darkened confines. The rescue attempt was monumental. There were over a dozen rescuers within the cave, cave and over 100 above the surface, like a small brigade against the Earth's very might. The cave became a battleground, a tug of war against the very essence of the very Earth itself, a collective effort to extract John from the cave's tight and relentless grip. The rescuers pulled, but were quickly confronted by the harsh reality of the situation. This was not going to work. It was clear that a sophisticated mechanism was needed. A pulley system had to be installed as an alternative to human strength. The only problem was installing a pulley system would take hours, a luxury that John could not afford. The situation was dire. John's body was not only trapped within the physical confines of the cave, but was succumbing to the extreme demands placed upon it by the unnatural position that he was forced to endure. His body began to confront the severe consequences of this position. You see, the human body was not engineered for prolonged inversion. When inverted, the lungs become compressed by heavier organs, rendering it challenging to breathe. The simple act of just breathing must have been agonizing. Every inhalation a battle, and every exhalation a shallow victory. Prolonged inversion can result in blood pooling within the brain, potentially causing ruptured blood vessels and brain hemorrhages, heightening the risk of heart failure due to the heart's inability to maintain blood flow. The headache must have been unimaginable. Each pulse, each heartbeat a hammer striking against his temple. He was enveloped by a growing sense of fatigue, stealing the strength that he desperately needed to maintain this position and fight for survival. This exhaustion, coupled by the physical torment of his predicament, would have cast a shadow over his resolve, turning each second into an eternity of suffering. Due to the lack of blood flow, his legs went numb, a creeping paralysis like 1,000 needles dancing chaotically beneath his skin. You know the feeling when your legs fall asleep, but this was amplified to an unimaginable degree. It was as if a legion of ants marched relentlessly within his veins, each step a sharp jab against the walls of his nerves. It was a symphony of pain, played on the fine strings of nerve endings, a cruel reminder of his body's rebellion against this unnatural position. It was as if his limbs were slowly being erased. Blood began to pool within his brain, like a tide rising against the shores of his consciousness, drowning his sanity. Each violent wave eroding the shores of his rational thoughts, submerging his mind deeper into delirium. The brain was not engineered to withstand such pressure from such an unforgiving position. Gravity laid siege upon his sanity. John began to distance himself from reality. He went from being completely calm and lucid to hallucinating and helplessly thrashing himself. His legs grew a mind of its own with the primal instincts to run, but is held down by an invisible adversary that clung to him with the voracity of a predator. This is the physical manifestation of a body trying to escape a mind that is tethered to the Earth's unrelenting grip. It became obvious that John began to lose touch with reality. Reality became a fleeting visitor, waiting to pack his bags and leave. Hallucinations flickered in and out of his vision, dancing at the edge of his fading consciousness, blurring the lines between reality and illusion. Perhaps in these visions, John saw the walls of the cave dissolve into open sky. Trees, birds, the clouds playing charades like shape-shifting storytellers of the skies, carefree nomads of the air, mindlessly moving in accordance with the gentle breeze, soft earth beneath your feet, the sweet fragrance of blossoms, hummingbirds, singing the chorus to cheerful songs, only for reality to claw its way back with ruthless tenacity. You are snapped back into the cruel reality of this prison. The urgency of the situation hung heavily on the hearts of the rescuers. They felt it as well. It was excruciating to watch as they confronted the raw reality of the situation, knowing that the delicate thread of John's life was intertwined with their own actions and capacity to persevere. They were enveloped by a growing sense of guilt, knowing that they could leave whenever they want, but John couldn't. In an attempt to bridge the gap between the suffocating silence of the cave and John's family, a telecom system was brought in to serve as a lifeline to which John's voice could travel. John spoke to his wife. He assured her that everything will be fine and that he will be out soon. His words to his wife were like a life jacket, tossed into the turbulent sea of uncertainty that surrounded them both. As the rescue operation went by, Time became a thief, stealing away the minutes and turning it into hours. The entire night went by. The morning went by, and 4 p.m. the pulley system was set in place and anchored to John's legs. Tug after tug after tug, inch by inch by inch, John began to slip out of the unforgiving grip of the cave. It was working. Each pull, each tug was accompanied by an echoing cry to stop, but it was working. The sensation he endured was beyond the realm of ordinary pain, but it was working. The prickling, burning agony of compressed nerves, long starved from proper blood circulation, flared with renewed intensity as the pulley system tugged at his legs, but it was working. It was as if every fiber of his being screamed in protest, a chorus of anguish that echoed off the walls of the cave. But it was working. With each inch escaped from the grip of the cave, the pain escalated, but it was working. Until it wasn't. They came to the disturbing realization that in order to get him out, they needed to break his legs. The gravity of this decision weighed heavily on everyone present. Should we continue to risk prolonging John's agony with no certainty of success, or to take the more drastic step by pushing his body beyond its already strained limits? In this dire moment, the cave became more than just a physical prison, but a judge. Its cold walls standing as a courtroom of nature's making, ready to pronounce judgment and sentence a man whose only plea was for a chance to see the light of day. The unforgiving judge offered no mercy, no relief, declaring that the very act of trespassing was a crime worthy of an unforgiving penalty, a grim reminder that beneath the earth's surface, in the dark, the earth rules with an iron fist, and its judgments are not subject to appeal. Tug after tug, inch by inch, John was high enough in a position where he could make eye contact. His eyes were bloodshot red. John was slipping in and out of consciousness. The words that spilled out of his lips were a jumbled mix of confusion, apology, and distress, a poignant reflection of his fractured state of mind. John was recorded stating, help me get out. I don't want to be on my head. Why did you guys put me here? I can't believe I am upside down. My legs are killing me. I am so fat. I'm sorry, I am so fat. It would have been easy for you guys to get me out of here if I wasn't so fat. The words he uttered were like a window, with a clear view into his tormented state of mind. Very cruel tricks the mind can play on you after pushed beyond its very limits. A sudden darkness overwhelmed the cave, and there was silence. The carabiner from the pulley system snapped loose, hitting Brian, who was one of the rescuers. He was struck in the face and blacked out. He woke up to a concussion and was bleeding heavily. Ryan said, John, I need to get out. I am bleeding, but someone will be back here with you. In the meantime, John had slipped further into the cave and all of their efforts were reduced to nothing. Ryan's replacement was John's father. When his dad came close enough to John, John said to him, I'm going to die here. I'm not going to come out of here, am I? John asked about Ryan. He said, is he okay? I think he's hurt really bad. Those were John's last words. For 27 hours, John laid in an inverted position, and on the 28th hour, he went unconscious and never woke up. If you like this video, feel free to unsubscribe and dislike this video. Imagine being sucked forcefully upside down through an underwater oil pipeline 150 feet below the Atlantic Ocean. For days, he was stuck in darkness, surviving on 4 oxygen tanks that were sucked along with him. Click this video to find out what happened.